Where'll you be going?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome from the heart of Dripping Springs. We are Mallet and Michelle, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallet.
Michelle Lewis, how are you?
Hello, I'm tired.
Welcome back from what I would describe as the weekend from hell, but I don't know if that's the way you would describe it.
We did adult Disney.
I saw your pictures and I was thinking, is there anything I would rather do less than that? And I couldn't come up with anything.
We were very excited, but if you asked Todd Sunday night or Monday morning at 2 a.m. as we were getting back from the airport, what he would rather do less, and that was probably Disney. But
yeah.
But I want to welcome or thank you to our sponsors, M. Elliott Studio, Capital Farm Credit,
Nomic Power Solutions,
and Mallet Integrity Team.
Yeah, thanks. Couldn't do it without you.
Man, we have an amazing guest with us today. Wow.
Yeah, this is a big one. Yeah, and kudos to you for getting him to come on. Hal Elrod from Miracle Morning is going to join us. He's a New York Times bestseller, runs a website, huge website, I think 300,000 subscribers. Podcast host, keynote speaker. I mean, yeah, he's the real deal.
Father, Dripping Springs resident. So, wow, this is going to be very interesting. I've been watching a lot of his videos and stuff like that.
It's amazing how many people like him are ending up in Dripping Springs right now. That's one of the questions I want to ask him is, why has Dripping Springs become a magnet for successful people like him?
Duh, they want to hang out with people like me.
Me.
Oh.
They want to hang out with people like me, Michelle.
Only before 6 p.m.
Yeah, because I got my jammies on after that.
Only before 6 p.m. So we're going to talk about kind of what we did this weekend. You had something really cool that you did.
I did. The Dripping Springs Women's, what is it?
The Dripping Springs Women's Club.
Women's Club. I always say group, but Women's Club put on a tour of historic downtown Dripping Springs, the Mercer Historic District. And I guess we had about, 75 or 80 people come out, but we had individual hosts at each of the locations to tell stories and give an overview of the property.
And you got the Rinky-Dink
Domino Hall, yeah, which we did a story on, I don't know, 100 episodes or so ago. But it's a very cool little building right there in front of Growlix, and built in 1939, moved to that location in the 60s, built for $50 worth of materials.
And they kind of everybody pitched in, right?
Yeah.
$2, $5
one guy, John Butler, gave the $50,
but then
basically lent it, and then he was paid back. Every time you went to play dominoes at the Rinky Dink, you put a quarter in a hat, and he got his whole $50 back for that $50 investment.
Well, now it's I think the resident raccoon that lives down there.
That's
Last
right,
time I was
you
there,
discovered, yeah.
Did you see it when you were there?
I did not see it. I kind of looked down in there, but yeah, that building's in disrepair, but there are plans to fix it up, and it's pretty cool. But that whole the Women's Club putting on that tour, there's so much history in downtown Dripping Springs, and people drive by it, they just don't know. They just think, oh, that's a cool little rock building. Well, there are stories behind every one of those buildings.
There were two things that I took away from that you told me about. One, that the electricity that they get for the Rinky Dink comes from Vintage Soul. So Vintage Soul supplies or that building.
Not anymore. That the power's been cut off since it's in such bad shape. But it did when the book was written about Dripping Springs. The power did come from Vintage Soul.
Oh, and then the other thing was, which actually surprised me, but it didn't, is that how many businesses downtown are closed on Sundays?
Yeah, that was surprising to me, too. I would say more than half of the businesses are not open on Sunday, and everybody wants us to sort of have a little touristy district down there, but you don't get the people to come if there's nothing for them to do. Mazama was open until 2. Time and Dough is closed, even though that's on the other side of the highway.
The barbershop was closed.
Barbershop's closed. Growlix is closed. Most of the retail stores were closed. The used to be Longhorn Gifts next to Mazama. It's called
Lone Star Gifts.
Lone Star Gifts. That was closed.
So there's really nothing to do downtown on a Sunday unless it's Founders Day weekend, which is coming up this weekend.
Yeah, joy of joys.
Yeah, great. Well, I came back from Disney like we talked about. We went with the adult children. My daughter couldn't go because somebody has to work in the family. But the boys wanted to do drinking around the world, and that's where you go to Epcot, and you go to every country at Epcot, and you have a drink.
I'm
now,
shaking
granted,
my head.
well, I couldn't keep up. Obviously, I only got to Mexico. That was the first one. I had one margarita, and I was like done until we went all the way back around. And I think England is where I had another drink.
I'd have never made it out of the streets of Mexico.
You know,
You'd have found me in a gutter in Mexico.
Todd kept saying we kept ending back in Mexico, but not to drink. We just kept kind of coming back and forth. But Disney definitely is different with adult children.
Oh, I bet.
For sure. And all of us agree we think there should be one day where it should just be adults, no kids. And I mean, the whole purpose of Walt Disney building this theme park was when his children were younger, when his girls were younger, he wanted a place where adults could also have fun with their kids. But, you know, we're the ones paying for it. But the funniest...
And paying. Would you tell me you spent $500 on a lunch in the park?
That was it was really good, though. It was in...
It better be good for $500.
Yeah, it was in Animal Kingdom. It was called Tusker House, and it was a buffet, but we got the bill. It was $500. And then the night before that, we ate at the aquarium, and that was $400. And
a bargain.
It was a bargain for sure. We just spent money, so much money. But the funny thing is, the last night we were coming back, our flight kept getting delayed. Thank you, Southwest Airlines, which I'm a big Southwest Airlines proponent. But we were supposed to leave at 9:55, and then it said 11:15, and then it would jump back to 10:15. It was just all over the place. So we said, forget it. We checked our our luggage back into the hotel, and we went to Disney Springs, the downtown Disney area, and we were going to go have a nice dinner. And then we're getting updates. So we're rushing back to get our luggage to catch the Uber to the airplane. And there's precious little girl sitting right next to me, and she's tired, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
And she's playing with my hair and rubbing my arm, right? It was so sweet. And I started talking to her. She's sitting on her mama's lap, and I started talking to her. And somehow we got on the subject of like where we live. And I said, well, I live in Austin. And the family goes, well, we live in Austin. I said, well, actually, I live in Dripping Springs. They go, we live in Dripping Springs.
Small world.
And so it was really cool. The fact
great.
that, you know, of all the billions of people in Disney, I sat next to somebody from Dripping Springs.
I say that all the time. It is such a small world. If you sit next to somebody on an airplane and you talk to them for 2 hours, you will find somebody that you know in common. There's some kind of connection you have. The world's not as big a place as we all feel like it is.
Well, you know, when I came into work, when I crawled into work that Monday, barely when I crawled into work, when I was walking in, our people that rent from or that lease the building next to us, I started talking to the gentleman. I said, how are you doing? Are you having a good morning? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm ready. We're going to Disney tomorrow. My wife and I said, I just got back from Disney.
Let me give you some tips.
Yes. So we had a good time. We had a really good time. So Drip News, I want to tell you something really funny. I think people are enjoying me kind of talking about the scoop in Dripping Springs News. There is a movement on the Dripping Springs Neighbors page. It's called Bring Back Sydney. Sydney apparently is the famous Sydney and most popular bartender in all of Dripping Springs. She was the bartender at Flora's, and they have parted ways.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Sydney is great. She's I've met her a couple of times. She's a wonderful young lady that lives here, and I don't know where she's landed, but people are really pissed off that she has.
Left?
And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a mutual parting or if there was something that happened.
Maybe she got a better job.
But there's a whole movement called Bring Back Sydney. So if you see that, I think it would be kind of fun to talk to Sydney. So I want to reach out to Sydney and see what brought
what's
her.
Going on. Yeah.
But I have an announcement. Christine Lowenz, she's the executive assistant for the North Hayes EMS. And so she gave me a copy that I'm going to read, and this is to promote EMS Week that's happening in May. Did you know that Dripping Springs is one of the few places where EMS services are separate from fire services? The good thing about them being separate is our medics is our medics that answer our emergency calls are highly trained, so much so that some ERs are hiring them to work at hospitals instead of the ambulances. The reason I mention this is because May 19th through 25th is EMS week, and one of the only times they get celebrated for everything they do. North EMS will have different food trucks at their admin office over by Flying Fish on Sportsplex to help celebrate the medics. But we wanted to show or encourage the community to bring by goodies or thank you notes or something that show their appreciation for the men and women that help us in our time of need. Even just stopping by to say thank you would mean a lot to them. It's at 111 EMS Drive in Dripping Springs, and it's from May 19th to May 25th. Come on, folks. Come out.
Support those people that support us in the community.
Absolutely. Support them.
Yeah. My story, one of the stories I've got today, Michelle, would you cheat in an election?
No, but I know who did cheat in an election.
Yeah. I've got this Rasmussen poll that they polled 1,467 likely U.S. voters and found that an average of 28% of people said they would be willing to engage in illegal activity to help their preferred political
How
candidate.
many?
28%. The breakdown was 27% of Democrats, 29% of Republicans, and 25% of independents. So that's Biden, Trump, Kennedy. I guess Kennedy would be an independent. So, and
that's disgusting.
I agree. That's 1 in 4 people said they would cheat in an election, which cracks me up when people say there was nothing wrong in the last election. I'm not saying that the election would have been swayed one way or the other, but there is definitely cheating going on.
There is something really wrong with this society right now where they think that is okay.
Yeah. The number one place that people felt most comfortable if they were going to cheat is on mail-in ballots.
That does not surprise me at all.
We've got to do something about mail-in ballots. And I was thinking about this.
We got to do something about requiring IDs to vote.
That too. Yeah, you got to get it. You have to have an ID for everything. To buy a bottle of vodka, you got to have an ID, but you can go vote. Mm-hmm. The people that have mail-in ballots, 18% said if their spouse or another trusted family member allowed them to fill out and sign their mail-in ballot, they would fill in the candidate of their choice, not the candidate of the spouse.
You know what that reminded me of? 4 years ago, you were talking about Tyler, your son Tyler, when he was in school.
I was thinking about this. Yeah,
and he was in
it was life skills.
In life skills, and
he had somebody coming to the house. She was a wonderful lady. I'm not going to say her name, but they were doing a sort of social studies class, and he was eligible to vote. I think he was 19 at the time. And so he had a mail-in ballot because he's special needs, and she helped him fill in the ballot, and he knows absolutely nothing about politics.
Yeah.
And she filled in the ballot with and checked the candidate that nobody in my family would have voted for.
With her candidate of choice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
And so in her mind, I'm sure she thought, because she said the names of the candidates, and he probably I'm sure he used some metric that had nothing to do with who would lead the country the best. It was a pretty name, or this one's female or that one's male. It was something.
Would you consider that cheating though?
I totally consider that cheating.
Yeah, I think
because this teacher who did not have that intention, I don't think, got a vote for her side.
Yeah.
By using somebody that doesn't know anything about politics. And Tyler would have never gone into a voting booth to pick anything. He never would have done that. So I think, I was thinking about, say a scenario where, God forbid, Todd gets a brain injury and he can't leave the house. So he gets a mail-in ballot. And he's not thinking clearly anymore. He's still eligible to vote. And he says to you, Michelle, I want you to vote for the Twizzler in chief, the current guy that's not running the country and
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse. And you were like, no, that's not who Todd would have voted for. And so you change it.
Yeah,
is it cheating? I don't know. It's a gray area for sure.
That is.
The thing about it is, I know, there are people that can't get out to vote, and we should accommodate them. But we shouldn't allow mail-in ballots to be used because somebody's too lazy to go exercise their constitutional duty to vote.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the premise of a mail-in vote. I have a kid who's in the military, and
that makes sense.
He was stationed overseas.
My sister's basically housebound. She can get out of the house, but it's very difficult for her to go to vote.
So
she should get a mail-in ballot.
There's compromised people, but it's not. It shouldn't be used. I mean, I saw videos of people handfuls, bucketfuls of mail-in votes.
You can imagine there were probably workers in elderly care facilities where you've been to some of those. Those people, they're just living out their final years in peace and comfort. They're not paying attention to the news anymore. They don't really care who the president is. And those workers, there might have been some that were very politically active that said, you know what, I'm going to fill all these in for so-and-so. Is that okay? And
I don't know.
Fine, I don't care. You're
right. That's a very gray area because it's not a competency test. That's interesting. Wow, the more you talk about it, the more it gets grayer and grayer.
The fact that 28% of the people admitted that they would cheat should be a concern for every single one of us.
Yeah, well, this is a very important election for everybody. Whatever side of the aisle you're on, I think our country is in such disarray right now.
Well, and then they're gaslighting you by saying, no, everything's so great. Everything's so good. If you believe everything's good right now, you're an idiot. So
everything is wonderful.
Yeah.
Everything is wonderful except
for the cicadas are coming.
Except for the cicadas are coming. So being in Florida this past weekend, all we heard about was the cicada invasion that's going to happen. And it is this rare double broad. I think it's a broad. It's different from a species, but it's a rare event that's happening where trillions of these cicadas are going to emerge on the Midwest and the Southeast area of the United States beginning in April right now. It's the biggest bug invasion in centuries since 1803, and it's not going to happen again until 2037. So it'll happen again.
If the world's not bad enough, now we're going to have 1 trillion bugs flying around.
Bring the cicadas on. Did you know that cicadas are not locusts? Locusts?
I did not know that.
And they do not eat vegetation. They drink from tree roots and twigs and branches. And the difference between what is happening
and human blood.
And they drink human blood. The difference between what is happening in right now, this invasion, and what happens every year, like Texas, the sounds of summer to me are the cicada sounds, right? I mean, that little sound. You know what that is, actually?
They're not cicadas, are they?
Yeah, they're the male cicadas, and it's their bellies.
I thought it was their hind legs. It's not, huh?
No, it's something with their abdomen or
They're
the underside.
Their thingies on something. God, that's a hell of a noise.
But
that's like the least sensual noise on the entire planet.
It's only going to get worse. The rest of my story is only going to get worse. So these cicadas crawl out of the ground roughly 13 to 17 year intervals, right? But like here in Texas, we have them that come, the annual cicadas,
right.
And they come out when the soil temperature reaches around 64 degrees. Right about now. But the annual cicadas, they have black or green eyes. If you want to ever get really close, those are the ones that come out every year. But the ones that are coming out, they have red eyes.
Oh, so we can tell them apart.
Yeah, they have red eyes.
When they come to drink the blood.
But what's so special about these other cicadas that are coming out is they are going to be carrying some certain type of fungus that scientists really want to study. And it's because these two different broads, I guess, are intersecting, and this never happens. And so they want to see how this fungus is,
that sounds so interesting to me.
But wait. Because it makes these cicadas want to party, and it makes them hypersexual.
Oh, great.
Yes. And
so they want to bottle that up.
They want to bottle it up.
For the next time that there's a COVID shutdown, they can give us the fungus, and we'll all be happy locked in our houses.
But like I told you, only males make that sound. So they're saying that the sounds are going to be sometimes overwhelming because of this fungus
sometimes.
is making them horny cicadas.
Horny cicadas.
Horny cicadas.
Oh, we've gone so far downhill, Michelle.
The cicadas, they're not harmful to humans, pets, or livestock, just any kind of cicadas, right? But they are food for birds. They aerate your lawns. They improve the water filtration. They add nutrients to the soil when they die. But my favorite part, or my dog's favorite part, is they're very crunchy when you eat them.
Gross.
They eat those dang things.
So what is a katydid? I thought is that another word for these? For the cicadas?
I have never heard of that.
Because when I first moved here and I walked outside and I heard that sound, I asked somebody and they said, oh, those are katydids.
Well, maybe that's just a mispronunciation.
You need to look that up. I'll do my story. You look that up.
Okay.
What a katydid is.
Oh, they're brush crickets. That's what a katydid is.
See, I think that's what makes that
They're
noise.
grasshoppers. Locusts are from the same family as a grasshopper or a cricket. And so...
You're such a biologist.
Look at that.
Michelle.
Well, it's because we don't have any internet in the office right now. I could look it up on my phone a lot quicker. So there you go. Katydid.
I've got a real quick story from the Texas Realtors Association about the 2024 Texas relocation report.
Who's moving here?
Who's moving here and who's leaving, believe it or not.
Oh.
So last year, 688,000 people moved to Texas from other states. But the net population gain was 175,000 residents. So that means 513,000 left Texas.
Okay.
So 688 moved in, 513 left. We still grew our population by 175. The number of people that moved from one state was Californians, obviously. 102,000 people moved here from California.
That's it?
Yeah, 102.
Wow.
Florida was 40. New York was 30K. Colorado 25K, and Illinois 25K.
I can see moving from Florida because, wow, is it humid? Wow.
Yeah, way more humid than
here.
Yeah. California was also the top destination for people leaving Texas. 42,000 people left Texas to move to California.
I could see that.
No, I can't. Jeez.
I mean, no. I could see. I mean, you're moving from a very blue state into a red purplish state, right? And so the people that are more left leaning, I think they probably feel an invasion of people coming in that aren't like-minded like them, and so maybe they want to move around.
Well,
which
I would love to know what percentage of that 42,000 people that left Texas for California were people that originally lived in California and they moved back.
Or
I'll
they
bet you
got
that's a huge.
Or U-Haul paid to have them move back because they don't have any more U-Hauls in
it could be.
in
That's
California.
42,000 people drove U-Hauls back to California. Number two was 38,000 Texans moved to Florida. 26,000 moved to Oklahoma.
Oh, we have several clients that are moving to Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas wasn't even on the list. So the highest net gain was California plus 60, New York plus 18,000, Oregon plus 9,000. So those are all blue states where people are just those are the number of people that left those states.
Hey, I'm all about
to get out of there.
Doing what's right for you and your family, for you and your house. And if you don't feel comfortable here, then that's fine. I mean, we've always said when you move to Dripping Springs, there's something about this place that's magical, right?
Agreed.
And so don't come here to try to change it.
I remember when I first moved here, Sammy and Bob. Remember?
Yeah, I know Sammy and Bob.
What were they on? KVET? KVET Radio.
Yep.
And a woman called in and she said, I just moved. This was a long time ago. I just moved here from San Francisco, and those little memorials y'all have up and down the highway with the little flowers and the crosses, you need to take those down. We would never allow that in California, just uglying up our freeways.
I bet it was Sammy. Was it Sammy?
Both of them just tore her up and down. Ma'am, respectfully, this is Texas, and you don't come to Texas and impose your rules on us. We have these memorials here for a reason to remind people that loved ones have passed away right there. Don't forget. Be careful with the people around you. There are people that other people love driving right next to you. And
that's funny that you would remember that.
Yeah, that was a big moment for me.
Yeah.
It's like, because I actually thought, I want to make sure I never say to anybody now that I've moved to Texas, well, the way they did it in California, because I mean, you might as well shoot yourself in the foot at that point. You're just setting yourself up for somebody to not like you.
I like it on the neighbors page when someone says, "Why don't you have XYZ like I have in California?" And then it's just like, do people do that on purpose?
I think they do. Yeah, that's like when what was the game we played in school? Where everybody would just jump on one kid and then almost suffocate the kid at the bottom of the pile. That's what that's like when you say. That's almost as bad as when somebody says, "I'm thinking about selling my house. Does anybody know a realtor?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's the most ridiculous one on
everybody
on
everybody out of the woodwork comes.
Yep.
But we do always appreciate your referrals. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I'm super excited to get Hal Elrod in here, and we're gonna take a little break and get him set up and bring you all about the miracle morning.
Are you tired of being left in the dark when the power goes out? Say goodbye to blackouts with Nomic Power Solutions.
As your full-service Generac dealer, they offer individually designed backup power solutions.
From start to finish, they've got you covered.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Nomic Power Solutions. Protect your home, protect your family, stay ready. Proudly sponsored by...
At Capital Farm Credit, they understand that owning land is more than just a transaction. It's a legacy, a future, and a place to call your own.
For generations, Capital Farm Credit has been the trusted lending partner for land loans, farmers, ranchers, and rural dreamers just like you.
Their personalized loan solutions cater to your unique needs, making the journey to land ownership smoother than ever.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Interior design should be an investment in your life and home. Let M. Elliott Studio transform your space, where interior design meets excellence in Central Texas.
Beyond just selecting colors and furnishings, team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, is a trained and licensed interior designer.
With her knowledge of architectural principles, building codes, space planning, and design theory, her team will work with you to understand your needs and lifestyle.
From concept to completion, M. Elliott Studio is committed to enhancing your space with a timeless and classic style.
Ready to redefine your space?
melliottstudio.com, 512-781-0224.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
And we're back with best-selling author of Miracle Morning and the Miracle Equation, Hal Elrod. Welcome to the show.
It is an honor to be here, especially a local Dripping Springs show. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great. I'm when Michelle told me that she got in contact with you and you agreed to come on, we were thrilled. So thanks for spending time with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Steve just called me a stalker, so did I stalk you?
A little. I mean, thankfully you did.
Be honest,
but I need to be stalked, or I can't keep up with my text messages. So I appreciate the pleasantly persistent is the I think that's
there you
pleasantly
go.
persistent.
There you go.
Michelle is pleasantly
you
persistent.
Are welcome. You are welcome.
Well, you just told us you've been here a couple, 3 years, which surprises me. But where'd you move from, and how'd you end up in Dripping Springs?
Yeah, so in 2016, I moved from California to Texas. We wanted to get out of California, escape California, and then in 2020, we started looking at getting out of Austin. We were in Westlake.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think it was June 2021. I actually have to ask my wife. We've been here 2 years, maybe 2 years, 3 years, give or take. But yeah, and so we bought acreage out here and wanted to try our hand at living off the land and being self-sufficient. And I always joke we're kind of like, it's like one of those 80s movies where like the city people move to the farm and like every day is a blunder. That's our life. Yeah.
So how is life here in Dripping Springs for you? Is it slower? Is it?
Yeah, it is. In our where we lived before, we were in a neighborhood with 3 other families that all bought houses there after we did that were friends of ours. Like one of them said, "Oh, I want to live in your neighborhood with you," and they bought a house. And then another family bought a house, and then another family, and they're some of our best friends. But it ended up being like the utopian dream that we were so excited about. It was like we never saw our kids because there were 3 other families that so somebody was always home to play with our kids, and they would we don't want to be it's like you don't want to be the only parents. Well, like their friends are they're allowed to hang out and they're allowed to hang out, and mom and dad. So it really was. I read this book called Hold On to Your Kids, and it made me realize that I was like my kids were being raised by their friends more than by me in some ways, and so. Yeah,
that's
we were excited. We love
age.
our friends, but we were excited to kind of get some space.
Get back. What about Dripping Springs has surprised you? Just even moving from California.
This is negative. Not enough restaurant options for me.
Oh God, you should have been here 20 years ago, Al. There was Sonic and Dairy Queen, and that was about it.
Well, and I went through, we'll probably talk about that, but the cancer journey. And since then, like I have an almost impossible standard. There's only a few restaurants, even in Austin, all of Austin, that I'll eat at, right? So like no seed oils, only organic produce, only grass-fed meat or pasture-raised chicken. So yeah, it's challenging to find a restaurant that fits the bill.
Yeah, I bet it is. What part of California?
I grew up in Northern California near Yosemite National Park.
Okay.
And then my wife and I moved to Temecula, California.
Oh, I know where
Temecula is.
Temecula is.
It's so weird. Everyone knows where Temecula is.
Do you know where Bonsall is?
I know the name,
South
but
of Fallbrook.
Okay, yeah.
I lived there for 15 years.
Oh, get out of here. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever been there.
I have a Temecula story. You want to hear my Temecula story?
Yeah.
So my husband was working with Qualcomm at the time, and they were trying to get us to move there. And I'm born and bred. I'm a Texas girl. I'm generation back.
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, let's go out looking in Temecula. So we went and looked at this avocado farm. It was like 5 acres, kind of up like that. And it was like, okay, maybe I could see. Nothing was brick, stone, stucco. And as we're driving out, no kidding, there was this snake that was crossing the road, and it was long as the road was.
Oh
and
my
I was like,
gosh.
nope. I'm at it because at least here in Texas, I can hear them.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, that was it. I'm never moving. Ever.
I don't blame you. That's funny.
Yeah.
Ever.
How you've had 2 near-death experiences, which is 2 more than most people have.
Sure.
The first one was a car accident.
Yeah.
And then obviously you had cancer, which changed your life.
Sure.
Were you in California with the car accident?
I was in California. I was 20 years old, hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour, and then spun off the drunk driver, and the car behind me broadsided me, T-boned me in my door at 70 miles an hour. And instantaneously, I broke 11 bones. Oh my God. My femur, the biggest bone in the human body, broke in half. My humerus by my bicep broke in half. I shattered my elbow, severed my radial nerve in my forearm. My eye socket was crushed. My ear was almost completely severed. And I started losing blood, and it was about an hour later when they finally used the jaws of life, they being the fire department, to cut me out of the car. I had lost so much blood for the hour that I bled to death, and my heart stopped beating for 6 minutes and spent the next 6 days in a coma.
God, when you do something, you do it all the way, don't you? You're just not half-assing it. You're like, okay, we're going to go.
My friend Jordan, he was interviewing me once on his show, Jordan Harbinger, and he said, I never thought of this. He goes, Hal, it's really interesting that you have both the worst luck in the world and the best luck in the world. Like you go through these things that, you're lucky to survive, but you somehow survive and thrive and, so on and so forth. So
you talk a lot about
mediocre here.
Right. You talk a lot about your journey and what you went through in that particular moment. And now as a parent, do you see kind of a different view of what maybe your parents were going through, especially having a daughter that's probably about to drive in a couple of years? And
I've said that for a long time, that my parents had the worst. Like I was in a coma, I broke the bones, but my parents had the worst of it because they had, as a parent now, right? Yeah, you realize that I've got a 14-year-old daughter and a 11-year-old son, and and I just what my mom and dad had to go through was, to me, I was unconscious for most of it.
My husband had this was 15 years ago or so. He had a heart attack when he was gone for 15 minutes, and he was on life support for 3-4 days. And I remember telling him, you don't know all the trauma that kind of happened because you were asleep.
Yeah, that's it.
And you had short-term, just like him. You know, I heard you talk about, frontal lobe issues and memory problems and being inappropriate and just kind of saying what any 20-year-old probably shouldn't be saying. And
totally.
And we just totally messed with my husband at that point. And that's kind of like our humor was.
Nobody did that to you, did they?
Oh yeah, no. I remember my sister. I was like, what happened to me again? Because I came out of the coma, but then I had my short-term memory was completely impaired.
Yeah.
So I'd fall asleep, wake back up, and my poor parents had to keep retelling.
That's exactly what happened with us. Yeah.
And
you were in a car accident.
Yeah, my sister was like, you were in a plane crash. I was like, I was? And she's like, and she went with that for a while. And she's like, tomorrow we'll just tell him the real story. He won't remember anyway. So yeah. So they just started having fun with it.
That's great.
At my expense.
It's humor. You got to get through it with humor too.
That was a big part for me. Everything was like finding the funny in everything.
Well, I think it probably helped you, not probably, it helped you get through that when you were talking about if you were going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, you were going to be the happiest person in that wheelchair. Yeah. And I love that outlook on it. And I just, you talk about the 5-minute rule.
Yeah.
Can you touch base on?
Yeah. I mean, and for anybody listening, this is arguably next to the Miracle Morning, this is the most powerful strategy I've ever come across for managing your mental and emotional well-being and dealing with adversity. So when I was 19, a year and a half before the car accident, I started selling Cutco cutlery. And I was
Rite of passage.
Yes. I was giving a speech that night at a Cutco conference when I got in the car accident. But a year and a half prior, on my second day of my Cutco sales training, my manager, mentor, Jesse Levine, he said, sales is really challenging. He said it's a microcosm for life's adversity, but it accelerates it, it amplifies it. Meaning, he said the average person occasionally faces failure or they occasionally face rejection, but the salesperson faces it a dozen times a week or day, right?
Yep.
He said, you're going to get rejected on the phone, in person, you're going to fail to reach your goals. He said, so you need a strategy to quickly move through adversity and keep moving forward. And he said, we call this the 5-minute rule. And he said, it's okay to be negative when something goes wrong and be upset over it, but there's no point in dwelling on it for an extended period of time because you can't change it. So being upset over it doesn't change anything. And he said most people allow themselves to be upset over things for not just minutes or hours, but days, weeks, months, decades. A lot of us are still suffering over things that happened when we were children. And so he taught us literally when you find yourself upset, and the example was in sales. So let's say a customer cancels the order, or they don't show up to the appointment or whatever. He said, set your timer for 5 minutes and give yourself 5 minutes to fully feel your emotions. Bitch, moan, cry, complain, vent, punch a wall, whatever. But he said when the timer goes off after 5 minutes, you say 3 very liberating words. Can't change it. And it's a simple acknowledgement that I can't change what happened 5 minutes ago. So right now I have a choice. Literally, how I feel after this moment on is up to me. I can continue to resist reality, wish that thing didn't happen, deem it unfair, and be upset about it. But that doesn't change it.
That's right.
It just makes me miserable. Or he said, you can accept it exactly as it is, accept your reality exactly as it is, and focus 100% of your energy on what you can control. And so when I came out of the coma, and, I was like, oh, okay, I broke 11 bones. They say I'm never going to walk again. I'm not going to accept that. I might be able to walk again. Nobody knows. But if I never walk again, to your point, Michelle, I'll be the happiest, most grateful person that anybody's ever seen in a wheelchair because I'm in a wheelchair either way.
That's pretty mature for 19, 20 years old.
I
know people that are my age, 60 years old, that don't have that maturity.
Well, when I'm a speaker, I speak a lot at events, and I often have people come up, go, when you took the stage, I go, how old? Who is this kid? What's he going to teach us? But at the end, wow, like you changed the way that I look at life. I realize I spend most of my life resisting things I can't change, wishing they were different, and creating emotional pain for myself. And a great example of that for everybody that you can relate to is traffic. Mm-hmm. Almost, if you're listening right now, imagine when you're in traffic, especially let's say you left the house late, you're running late, and being late is not good. There's a consequence for being late, right? We spend the entire time in that car stressed, frustrated, riding the bumper of the person in front of us, wishing we had left earlier, resisting reality. And this is a microcosm for life because we could spend every moment in that car going, well, I can't change that I left late. There's no point in wishing it didn't happen or dwelling on it. I can't change that I'm in traffic. There's no point in wishing that the cars were going any faster than they are. There's never any value in wishing reality were different than it is, but most of us are doing that all the time. And so traffic to me is like, I can't change it. Why don't I enjoy every moment of the time in this car? And for me, it's every moment of this one life that we've been blessed to live.
Wow, that's really big.
That's a very positive outlook. I've often said about myself, I can visit pity party land, but I don't live there.
There you go.
But it is infuriating to be around people that is part of their personality. Yeah. That everything. And
why do people get stuck in that loop?
The Eeyores, right? The Eeyores of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's learned, for one. It also meets some of our human needs. One of our human needs is significance. Right. And so if you're feeling insignificant, whenever you can get somebody's attention, it gives you the illusion of significance, even if the person in their head's going, oh, my God, I can't listen to you anymore.
Any attention is good attention.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Or it's perceived as good attention. And so I think it's learned behavior where, when you think about it, let's go beyond, like I was going to say, when our parents, encountered adversity like traffic, my dad always got mad. So I learned that when you hit traffic, you get mad. But our society, think about this. We've been conditioned to believe that when we're in pain, emotional pain, we always have someone or something to point to and blame for the pain we're feeling. Of course, I'm upset. Didn't you hear what happened to me? Right. Of course, I'm angry. Did you hear what she said? Right. So we're always pointing outside of ourselves and blaming other people for the way that we feel. And to me, the clearest truth to understand this isn't accurate, that it's no one else's fault that we're feeling upset, is that two different people could be enduring the exact same adversity. One person is miserable and blaming the adversity. The other person is completely at peace and saying, you know what, this adversity is going to help me grow and evolve, be a better version of myself. So it has nothing to do with the adversity. It's all in how we interpret it and how we respond to it.
Well, you were given the example of somebody doesn't show up for an appointment, you beat yourself up about that, and somebody that's more proactive would go out for 5 minutes and they would say, okay, well, next time I'll confirm the appointment or whatever. They'll change their behavior so that while somebody gets stuck in that loop of this failure that just goes on and on and on, there are people that look at that as a learning example to grow to the next step.
I think that's kind of what I do. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, that sucked. I don't want to do that again. How
you were saying it's learned. And it's interesting to me. You just said your dad got mad when he was stuck in traffic, but you got that from your point of view from your parents, right?
Sure.
Mostly.
Yeah. Well, so my parents, you mentioned earlier that it was a mature response to adversity, right? And I take very little credit for that, right? And to me, there are two things that led to that response. Number one is my mom and dad. When I was 8 years old, I woke up on a Saturday morning to my mother screaming across the hall. And she was saying, oh, my baby, my baby. And at first I thought she was playing with my 18-month-old sister Amory. And then as I became awake, I sensed despair in her voice. And I ran across the hall and she was performing mouth to mouth on my 18-month-old sister. And my sister died that morning.
Oh my God.
And my parents were naturally devastated. Again, I was 8 years old. My sister was 18 months old. But within 6 months to 12 months later, my mother was leading a support group for other parents who had lost children. My father was raising money for the hospital that tried to save my sister's life. So I really owe it to my parents. They taught me at a young age that when you experience tragedy, it's your responsibility to overcome that in service of other people so you can help other people overcome what they went through. So I told my dad when I was in the hospital after my car accident, and he came in one day. I've got a bandage on my eye, bandage on my ear, my arm's in a sling, my leg's in a sling. It's only been a week out of the coma. And he sat me down. He said, Hal, hey, the doctors are concerned with your mental and emotional state. They believe you're in denial because they said you're always happy and smiling and joking. And they said that's not normal for a 20-year-old young man that's being told he's never going to walk again. So how are you really feeling? And I said, Dad, I learned the 5-minute rule a year and a half ago. I can't change. And the accident was 2 weeks ago. So what's the point in me being sad, angry, scared, and depressed like the doctors are saying I should be? That doesn't serve me. I'm totally at peace with what I can't change, which is that I was in a car accident. I'm praying and maintaining unwavering faith that I will walk again someday, while I simultaneously accept the worst case scenario that I may be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. And I've decided I'll be the happiest, most grateful person that anyone's ever seen in a wheelchair, because I will never let my unchangeable circumstances determine my totally choosable mental and emotional well-being.
Wow, that's huge.
When I was talking about my husband, the doctor pulled my friends aside and had that same conversation with my friends. And we don't really think she's living in reality. Like, he's not going to wake up, and if he wakes up, he's going to be playing with crayons for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Anybody that walked in the room, I said, we're going to talk positive to him, even though he couldn't hear.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the choice that I chose to make. And I guess the question I have for you is, did you grow up in a faith-based family? Did you get that from your faith?
Yeah. I was raised Catholic, and at a really early age, I just had a real strong relationship with God. It's just an open dialogue, always talking, always praying, always talking to God, and so that is, I think that my faith was definitely a big part of getting through that as well.
So then you recover from that, and it looks like you fully recover. I'm sure you probably have some things that I can see. You've got a big scar on your arm. There's some things that you probably struggle with, and then you get cancer. And when was that?
So the car accident was when I was 20, and then I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia when I was 37.
Wow. So what year?
That was 2016.
It was like 6 months after I moved to Texas. So that was I moved to Texas in 2016. And then in October 2016, I was diagnosed.
So this journey for the Miracle Morning, was that already ongoing when you got cancer?
Yeah. So that was actually my, I always say, I used to call it my second rock bottom. It's like the first rock bottom was like, okay, the car accident, right? Like, I can't get much lower than this. I literally died. I'm okay, building back from this. In 2008, I lost over half of my income. I was a coach. I did business coaching, and I lost over half my clients because the economy crashed. Yes. My clients were affected. Sure. They quit coaching, and then my house was foreclosed on, which was the first house I ever bought a year and a half prior. Now it's foreclosed on. I went from being a Dave Ramsey debt-free student to living on credit cards. I went from being debt-free to $52,000 in personal credit card debt in 6 months, and I got really depressed, really scared. I didn't know what to do, and a friend said, I want you to listen to this audio from Jim Rohn. And he said, this audio changed the way I approached life, success, etc. So I listened to this Jim Rohn audio, and this one quote changed my entire life faster than I ever thought possible. And it's what gave birth to the Miracle Morning. Jim Rohn said, your level of success, and by the way, this is true in every area of life, marriage, health, happiness, you name it. Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And so when I heard that, and I think I'd heard the quote before, but it never really landed. I'm just like, yeah, okay, got it, whatever. I don't even know what that means, right? But when I heard that, I went, okay, if I'm measuring the level of success, and anybody listening, do this with me, right? Let's measure on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the happiest, healthiest, wealthiest, most in love you could be. On a scale of 1 to 10, what level of success do we all want? And I think it's a 10. I think you're right. Yeah. Human beings are born with an innate drive and desire to create the most extraordinary life that we can. It's just often we settle for less than we really want. But deep down, that's what we want. So if our level of success is not going to exceed our level of personal development, the next question I had to answer was, well, what's my level of personal development? And if you're listening, you might have thought what I did, which is like, what does that mean exactly? I had to Google, what is personal development? Yeah. Here's how I define that now, so anybody listening can apply this question. Our level of personal development is you determine that by looking at what are your daily rituals and routines or habits that are enabling you to develop yourself into the person that you need to be in terms of your mindset, discipline, habits, belief that you need to create and sustain the life that you want. And so I wanted level 10 success, but my level of personal development was like at a 2, like maybe a 3 or 4 on a good day. And I believe that is the disconnect for 95+% of people is everybody wants level 10 success, but how many people have daily rituals, routines, and habits that are enabling them to evolve, grow, and become better and better and better every day? And so that was my epiphany is I've got to figure out what the world's most successful people do. I've got to, for their personal development, I've got to organize it into a daily daily ritual and start practicing that. And so I went home, I Googled the best practices. I came up with 6 of them. I did them the next morning. I woke up. And keep in mind, I'm 50 grand in debt. My house is foreclosed on. I'm like at the lowest point in my life.
This is like 2008.
Yeah, like what do you have to lose? Yeah, go ahead.
And my very first morning, it wasn't called the Miracle Morning. It was just personal development at 6 a.m. or whatever. Right. But within an hour, I went, oh my gosh, I've been depressed for 6 months. I've been scared. I felt hopeless. If I start every day with this much clarity and energy and discipline and learning what I'm learning, it's only a matter of time before I become the person that I need to be to turn my life around. And I'll put a bow on the story by telling you how quickly it happened. I was thinking 6 to 12 months, like the compound effect. Gradually, I can turn this around. In less than 2 months, at the height of the Great Recession, when the economy was at its worst in my lifetime, I doubled my income in 2 months. Doubled my income, went from being in the worst shape of my life physically to committing to run a 52-mile ultra marathon because I hated running and I never done it before. And I thought, what better way to become a level 10 version of myself mentally and physically than to commit to run this ultra marathon?
If you look at me right now, I'm kicking you under the table, Mallet. I swear to God.
I was going to ask if you want to go for a run after this.
I still hate running.
I love running.
You do? Okay,
I do. I love running.
Didn't like it then, and I committed just to develop. I was like, who would I have to become to run? And keep in mind, the Miracle Morning for 2 months of doing it was changing my mindset. I was like, I want to challenge myself. Like, I now believe I can do so much more. And I went to my wife in the hallway of our house. That day, I signed on 2 coaching clients. I said, sweetheart, I've signed on 2 coaching clients today. She said, that's great, sweetie. Good job. I said, well, no, it's monumental because we've doubled our income since I started that morning routine 2 months ago. It feels like a miracle. And she goes, it's your miracle morning.
Oh, wow.
And she's my muse. The rest is kind of history. I started teaching to my coaching clients. Most of them were like, I'm not a morning person. I go, neither was I. Here's how let me give you like the tips on beating the snooze button. And within 2 weeks, all my coaching clients came back, were like, oh my gosh, the miracle morning is working for me. And that's when I realized, it worked for me, it worked for them. I have a responsibility to share this with the world and make it a book.
So define this right down to the details. The 6 points are silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and scribing. So give us the Cliff Notes version of that.
Yeah, so the 6 practices, silence, so the SAVERS is the acronym, right? Silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. Silence is starting your day with peaceful, purposeful silence. That could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be deep breathing, it could just be realizing like, I get to be alive right now. Like I get one more day. Yeah. But most of us, our smartphones have robbed us of silence that used to be built into our lives. But when does your greatest wisdom come to you? It's or come through you? It's in those moments of silence. It's in the shower. It's falling asleep at night. But most of us have minimized those moments. We need to bring it into our life intentionally every morning. So in the book, I teach various forms of meditation for people that have never meditated before a day in their life. And if they have, I teach this really cool advanced form called emotional optimization meditation, where you can identify and then reinforce the optimal mental and emotional states every single day. The A is for affirmations. And I want to spend just a minute on this because I think affirmations are the most misunderstood, mistaught, and yet the most effective form of personal development. Affirmations have been mistaught because we've been taught to affirm something that is not true, such as if you're struggling financially, just tell yourself, I am wealthy.
That's like the prosperity church. We talked about that at one point about how like these big churches are preaching this prosperity stuff. They're not preaching
that book that was out like 10 or 15 years, The Secret.
Yeah.
Was it The Secret?
Yeah. Which and there was some merit to that, but if you
manifest
combine it,
it'll happen. Yeah.
So affirmations, lying to yourself is never the optimal strategy. You can't say I am blank if it doesn't resonate as true, because then you're creating an internal conflict. The second problem with affirmations is we're taught to use this flowery passive language that promises an almost magical result independent of any effort. I'll give you an example. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance.
What's wrong with that? I said that to myself in the shower this morning.
And the funny part is that affirmation has stood the test of time. And the reason it has is because I believe it deludes us into feeling better. It's like taking a drug, right? Where you're like, you look at let's say you're checking your bank balance on your phone and you're negative, you're overdrawn, and you're like, oh, my reality is so painful, I need my affirmations. And then you go, I am a money magnet. Oh, that feels better. Yeah. Money flows to me effortlessly. Oh, that feels better because I'm not motivated. I need it effortlessly to come into my life. And so in the book, I walk you through how to create, there's 3 steps. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. In life, you don't get what you want, you get what you're committed to. And when you affirm it daily, day after day, I am committed to blank. No matter what, there is no other option. You acclimate to the commitment and it becomes more and more and more solidified every day. The second step is affirming why it is a must for you. And that's where you get really clear on why is this so important to me that I'm willing to do whatever it takes, whether I feel like it or not, every day. And when you affirm it every day, you're literally programming your subconscious mind with the reasons that will compel you forward. And then the third step is affirming which actions you will take and when. Those 3 steps, you create those affirmations for the most important goals in your life. And people experience miracles when they do that.
Explain to me, because when I was researching this, and I was familiar with your book as well, but everyone kind of measures their personal success differently. And I was talking to Steve about this.
I wrote that down. Yeah.
I feel like men, especially being, the majority of the time, the breadwinner, the leader of the family, whether it's the spiritual leader or the financial leader, that their motivation a lot of time or measure of success is financial. Yeah. For me personally, my measurement of success or my children's success. Therefore, my children are successful, therefore I'm successful. And right now at a point in my life, anything I achieve after that is sprinkles and icing and everything else, puppies and rainbows kind of thing. But how do you, let's say you don't know what your motivation is, you don't know if is it your kids, is it when you're visualizing that, how are you supposed to find that motivation to where you actually believe it instead of just sitting in front of a mirror and saying, I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and doggone it, people like me. Yeah.
That's another reason people don't take affirmations seriously, because that SNL skit. There's an age-old exercise, I don't know who invented it, called the Wheel of Life. And that's something that for me, when I was started doing the Miracle Morning, I learned about the Wheel of Life. And it's essentially where you assess your level of success. Basically, imagine a wheel and it's divided into a pie or a pizza. And depending on the Wheel of Life you find, there might be 8 areas, there might be 10 areas. But each slice of the pie, one is your finances. One is your mental health. One is your physical health and or your fitness. One is your relationship with your significant other. One is your relationship with your friends or your family, right? So you have every area of your life that really is important to you. And you measure from the inside out. So like at the center point of that wheel, it's a 0, right? It's like, I'm totally unfulfilled. I'm totally happy. I hate, and in each area of your life, you measure from the inside out. So let's say in one area, I'm a 7. My marriage is like a 7. Like, we're doing pretty good. We definitely could get better, but we're doing pretty good. My finances, man, I'm a 4. Like, I am struggling right now. So what happens is, and then you kind of color it in from the inside out. And what happens is, after you do this exercise, it takes like, 10 to 30 minutes, right? You have this total clear picture on your life and how you're doing in each area. And so for me, when I got obsessed with this, I learned about this level 10 success concept, or I created it out of the idea that Jim Rohn said my level of success on a scale of 1 to 10 won't exceed my level of personal development. Well, what's level 10 health look like for me? What does a level 10 marriage look like for me? And now it would be, what does being a level 10 parent look like? So it's measuring success in each area of your life and then setting a goal in each area. And you don't have to, if 10 areas or 8 areas are overwhelming, go, all right, well, what are the 3 most important areas in your life right now? What are the things that either you're struggling in that you want to improve?
Got to focus on.
Or they're just really important. Yeah. And then you measure yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And that's how I committed that ultra marathon. Like, when people see that, they're like, oh my gosh, you're an ultra marathon runner? I'm like, no, I'm not an ultra marathon runner. I am someone that hates running, that asks myself, what would a scale of 1 to 10 be in terms of my fitness? And I happened to have 2 friends that had run ultra marathons together. And so I was like, well, if they could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, so out of my comfort zone. But anyway, to your point, Michelle, like, how do you measure? You literally look at every area of your life and you start somewhere. You don't go, what would a level 10 be like in terms of the ultimate vision I have, But it's like where I'm at now, this year, what would level 10 look like? Right. Wow. And it's just getting a little bit better. It's not, you're never going to achieve a level 10.
It's like eating a Cobb salad. You eat what you want first. Yeah. That's what's important first.
And it's about progress over perfection, right? Just doing something.
Absolutely.
And what I love about the Miracle Morning is it's so foundational because every human being on the planet wakes up and starts their day. What no one ever taught us is that how you start your day, how you spend the first 10 to 30 minutes sets the tone and the direction for the rest of your day. And most of us wake up and we're like, oh, I'm going to hit the snooze button 3 times and I'm going to wait until the last possible minute to get out of bed. And then I'm going to be rushing and reactive and stressed. And then that's how we live our lives. And we just do the same thing over and over and over. But waking up to your Miracle Morning enables you to start every day in that peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. Even if you're not a morning person, you go, wow, this feels good.
Yeah. It seems like there's sort of a gratitude drought amongst young kids today. Do you have a lot of kids that are struggling just to get through life, but also to reach higher levels than I think there's a lot of kids that think that they're just going to do the bare minimum.
Totally.
And so do you have a lot of young kids coming to you and reading the book and learning and growing from that? Yeah,
we actually ended up writing. So the Miracle Morning, there's a book series, the Miracle Morning for parents and families, the Miracle Morning for writers, for real estate agents, across the board. There's about a dozen books in the series. And the Miracle Morning for parents and families was born because a lot of people were coming saying, hey, I'm having my young kid read the Miracle Morning, but a lot of it works for him. We're doing the Miracle Morning together, but it's kind of over his head. So we wrote this Miracle Morning for Parents and Families book. But I agree with you that there is the future of humanity is kind of in question. What are we teaching our kids? Are we enabling them? And I think technology, we were talking about that before we started, technology, I love technology, but at the same time, as technology advances, human abilities atrophy. Right?
Without a doubt.
When you used to have to, if you wanted to buy something, you used to have to get in your car, make a list, go drive, right? Now you push a button and within 10 seconds, you've ordered it and it's going to be there tomorrow.
Well, I think going back to my question, the biggest, I was reading a story in the Wall Street Journal this morning about schools trying to lock up kids' phones during the school day, and the parents are actually fighting that.
Wow.
But the skill that's being lost in school now is that kids don't have to learn to socialize, which is a basic part of a culture, of a society, is learning how to interact with other human beings. That's being lost because they spend all their time on their phones when they have a little bit of downtime.
Well, the socialization. What kind of rules do you have for your kids for phones, social media, that kind of?
Yeah. So I would rather the kids
wife makes the rules.
Kind of. I would rather they didn't have phones at all. I would have my daughter wait till she was 16 probably, but she ended up getting one. I lost that battle at 14. But she has no social media. So no Instagram, no Facebook, no social media. She has limits. What's great is you can, within the, if you're on your phone, you look at screen time, you set up your family's screen time. She has restrictions on, her phone shuts off at 8:30 p.m. So she can't be on it late at night, as she's falling asleep or whatever. What we were doing, we were having her turn it in, but we were chasing her down. It became a pain. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And then I realized, you can actually set limits to where it's her phone just stops working. So it's there's nothing for her to do on it.
Great.
And then it doesn't work until 7 a.m. So in the morning, she can't start her day with her phone because nothing works. She can listen to music. There's a few things she can do, but she can't text her friends. She can't, get online. None of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to see more of a trend towards that in the future because we're really taking a lot of the value in life away from our kids by letting them be so absorbed in their phones. I want to kind of circle back to the Miracle Morning and when you started this. When did you, because you've started a global movement with this, when did you realize this could be bigger than just you coaching, a dozen people and changing their life, and that you could change hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people's lives? What was that moment?
Yeah, I don't think it was a moment. It was also that frame of reference was combated with total insecurity and imposter syndrome that we all suffer from. So when I when 13 out of 14 of my coaching clients came back to their next call, and most of them had protested, like, I'm not a morning person. And again, I gave them one of the big parts about the Miracle Morning book is it holds someone's hand from never thinking they could have been a morning person to being a like faithful Miracle Morning practitioner in 30 days. There's a very clear process that has successfully worked. And when I was writing the book, though, that was my biggest insecurity was, how am I going to convince someone that's spent their entire life saying, I'm not a morning person, and they believe it, they have evidence to support it. What am I going to write in a book that's going to change that? And part of what I realized, and this is important for, I think, all of us to realize, if you don't think you're a morning person, that is a conditioned limiting belief that we adopted through our formative years. So think about this. We were forced to wake up against our will from age 5 to 18.
Right.
And if left
53.
to our own, but if left to our own devices, we would keep sleeping until the last minute. So you think about that. While your brain is forming as a child, you develop a resistance and a resentment to waking up any moment before you absolutely have to. And then we leave the house, and if you're like me, you're staying up till 5 a.m. playing video games, and you're scheduling your first college class to start at noon, and but we have to realize that it's not that you are or aren't a morning person. And again, 72%, actually, not again, I didn't say this yet, but roughly 72% of the millions of Miracle Morning practitioners, when they are surveyed, which we always survey over and over repeatedly, 72% say that they had never in their life believed they could be a morning person until they read the Miracle Morning, and it completely changed that for them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I hear people say that all the time, and you haven't really tried it and tried it in earnest. I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. That's my normal time, and was on the road running at 5 o'clock. But I think that's the best part of my day. I look forward to that.
Me too.
But it wasn't like that always. I was that kid that would sleep till noon on a Saturday.
Well, he also goes to bed at 6.
I don't. 8:30.
Me too. 8:30. High five. Yeah.
See, Michelle, you're missing out.
I am in a room full of serial killers right now. That is what's going on.
You know what, though? It's I feel more like the master of my destiny, which sets a tone for me for the rest of my day. If I'm the one that's choosing to do this, to get up, to go run. I ran 7 miles this morning. I chose to do that. Nobody made me do that.
Yeah.
Well, then the rest of my day, I can say, I can make myself do these things maybe that I don't want to do. I think it's huge to start your day.
And
like
here's a really interesting perspective on that. So I want everybody listening to think about a time in their life. Maybe it was a time in their life when you're excited to wake up the next day. For me, it was being a kid on Christmas Eve. Right. And if you didn't celebrate Christmas, think about like the day before going back to school to see your friends, or before going on a vacation, right? Where you're like, we're leaving early tomorrow. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Yeah. So was it hard to wake up on those mornings? And the answer, of course, is no. You as soon as your eyes were open, you're like, oh, it's the day. Today's the day. It's Christmas. And what I realize is that we can recreate that experience every single day of our lives. And I just had to reverse engineer it and go, well, what made us excited? Number one, we had something we were looking forward to in the morning. We had a clear picture of what we were going to do when we woke up. And so in the book, I teach these bedtime affirmations that enable you to like kind of set your intention before you go to bed to be like, all right, tomorrow morning, here's the time I'm waking up. No matter how I sleep, I'm going to be energized, excited. I'm going to wake up and not wake up to my stressful life. I'm going to wake up to my miracle morning and do the things that enable me to become the person to create the life that I want, right? And you set that intention, you go to bed optimistic and excited, and then you jump out of bed the next morning.
Are you an alarm clock person?
I am, but I almost always wake up before my alarm clock.
I
it's
don't
like my
use an alarm clock.
Oh, you don't?
I wake up at 6 a.m., 5:30, 6 a.m. But I think I was really resonating with something that you were saying about I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person. I became a night person when my kids were smaller because it was the time that I had to myself and for Bible study or with my husband or just kind of downtime.
Yeah.
And so when you said that, I had this little light bulb moment. It was like, well, I'm in a different place in my life now. Like my kids are all grown, they're married. And so need to shift my way of thinking where I was a night person because that was my alone time.
Yeah.
And now in the morning I could be spending that. But if you wake me up at 4 a.m. and you call me,
I try.
I will hurt you.
Hal, I know you have a hard stop in about 10 minutes, so we want to respect that. So about 5 more minutes and then we'll wrap up. I wanted to, in your bio that you shared with us, you said that the state of humanity keeps you up at night. And I want to ask you, do you believe that humanity's at a greater risk now than at any other time? Or is this sort of just like how history has been?
I believe it is. And I believe it is because of globalization. Before it was localized, right? So when there was a society, there were societies.
Right.
Now there's a global society. In 2020, I think really revealed that the people in power can coordinate their decisions and control humanity's behavior in of course under the guise of all of us
Public
protecting.
health,
yes. But that just shows that whatever they want to do, whatever their motives are. And I think it's interesting. Anyone that, no offense, but I just think it's naive to think that that people in power are looking out for our best interest.
No.
Altruism is a very rare trait to find in another human being. I try to embody it myself. I strive to.
Sure.
But I don't think it's very many people that are doing it. And I think political theater is a very real thing where the politicians are saying the things that will get them the votes, though.
And they're doing the things that will keep them in power.
Yes.
Exactly. That's their biggest.
You look at these career politicians that their salary is $200,000 a year, but somehow they leave office worth $80 million.
I say
right?
that all the time. Yeah. How does that happen?
Yeah.
And every time these governments run a deficit, they never think, well, how can we cut spending? They always think, oh, how can we raise more taxes?
Well, it was kind of like, out of all the podcasts that we had, there was one that we had, Tucker Max, when he said, and it really made me just chew it over and over and over again. He goes, think about thinking macro versus thinking micro. And it's like taking care of your family, your neighborhood. And it brings it back to like why you live here in Dripping Springs, why you moved here. It's like living the LA, the California life. It wasn't what was in the best interest of your family.
Yeah.
And now, because you're thinking micro, even though you're a global figure, you've reached millions of people, but the most important thing to you is your wife and your kids.
Totally. That's why we moved to Dripping, is so that we could live off the land. And, we got 35 chickens and we got sheep and we got horses.
Isn't it great?
We're growing, we got a garden. But I want to say this, that I think this is a good kind of closing or almost closing thought, is in 2020, when this pandemic hit and everybody's going, like, we don't know what to think and what's true and what, oh my gosh, right. And how bad is this? And are we all going to die? And, and what I realized is that, we are all focused collectively as a global society on things that are out of our control. Right? We can't control the pandemic. We can't control what our governments are doing. We can't control if they're locking us in our homes. Right? Like, these are all things that are out of our control. And when we focus on things that are out of our control, we feel out of control. And when we feel out of control as a human being,
that's so true.
It creates anxiety, fear, stress, depression, so on and so forth. And so they've got us perpetually living in stress, anxiety, depression. Yeah. So what's the solution? And as a father and as a leader of the Miracle Morning community in 2020, it was in March, I was asking myself, what should I be focusing on myself? And what should I be telling my people that listen to me, that follow me? And I realized the only thing that we can control is how we show up every day and who we become. And so I doubled down on the Miracle Morning. I go, I'm going to utilize my Miracle Morning to become the best version of myself every day so I can show up at my best for the people that I love and the people that I lead. Mm-hmm. And so there's craziness in the world. And what does give me hope, to your point, Steve, is that, is it worse than ever? Scarier time for you? Maybe. But also, throughout history, there have been wars and genocides and repeated times. And so in one way, yes, we're all connected to technology and there's more coordination globally. But in another way, we're just going through a period in history that is is wild. I love my father-in-law. He goes, what a wild time to be alive. You know, he grew up in communist Poland.
Oh, really?
And stood in line for bread, and and he goes, I could either be scared right now or I could be fascinated. And he goes, I'm choosing to be fascinated and focus on my family and focus on taking care of myself. And
yeah, that's great. So for our listeners, we're going to wrap up. What would you like anybody that's listening right now to do, and how can they find out more information?
The greatest gift that I have given to the world is the Miracle Morning. The book. Well, the practice.
Oh, the practice.
Right?
Got it.
And so there are 3 ways to consume it. There is the book, also the audiobook, so I guess that'd be another way. But the book, which you can get anywhere books are sold, of course, Amazon's where most people get it, or Audible for the audiobook.
You brought us a book too.
And I need to go grab a second copy out of the car. I'm going to give you guys 2.
Good.
But the book, there's also an app, and the app is one of the easiest, fastest ways. You can download the free version of the app. There's also a premium version with hundreds of guided Savers tracks. But in the free version, there's a 13-minute guided Miracle Morning. So you literally hit play, and then it guides you through all 6 of the Savers in less than 15 minutes. And then there's the Miracle Morning movie, which is a 90-minute full-length documentary that you can watch free at miraclemorning.com, or you can rent it on Amazon Prime.
I've watched it twice already.
Oh, have you?
I have, and I sent it to Kendall this morning, and she's been watching it, been texting me.
Oh, that's cool. It turned out, I think, really good. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I'm excited.
So
Thanks for sharing it.
I am so honored that you allowed me to stalk you, and I had to tell you where McDonald's was here in Dripping Springs.
Which is good for you that you don't even know.
But thank you so much.
I feel the same. I'm honored that you spend this time with us, and we wish you great success. I know the people that read your book and that go on your website, their lives can be changed if they're open to it. So I'm encouraging everybody listening to do that now. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Hal.
Thank you for having me, y'all.
Thank
It's really
you.
appreciative.
Appreciate it. Ready to turn your land dreams into reality? Look no further than Capital Farm Credit.
Need a loan for your perfect piece of land? Capital Farm Credit is there for you.
Their dedicated team will tailor a loan to fit your unique needs because your dreams are their priority.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Get to know your local full-service Generac dealer.
Cody and Dylan with Nomic Power Solutions are a veteran-owned, Texas-based Generac dealer and installer.
Offering low monthly payment options, it's never been easier to gain independence from the grid.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Turnkey service including design, plumbing, electrical, and permits.
They even offer set it and forget it maintenance plans. Nomic Power Solutions.
Protect your home. Protect your family. Stay ready. Elevate your living experience with M. Elliott Studio, your trusted partner in interior design, registered and licensed by the state of Texas.
You want your home to reflect your personal style and identity. Investing in a well-crafted design doesn't just beautify your home, it enriches your life.
Team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, understands the profound impact of a thoughtfully designed space. From remodeling to full design, M. Elliott Studio is the first step to unlocking your style.
Turn your aspirations into reality. Tailored to your taste and desires, M. Elliott Studio will work to create an environment that embraces your style with style.
Your space, their expertise.
melliotstudio.com 512-781-0224.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.